Hello, and welcome to what I read in June. Let's go ahead and get into everything that I read. The first book that I read was called The Whisper Man by Alex North. After the sudden death of his wife, Tom Kennedy moves with his son to a new town. The town has a dark past involving children who are abducted by a man who lures his victims out of the house by whispering to them over the course of several days to gain their trust. After 20 years, the police think the case is put to rest until children begin to hear whispering again. I gave this book 4 stars. The story was pretty interesting. It kind of veers into supernatural type of things at times, but pretty much it's kind of like your typical thriller mystery. It's definitely very creepy because of all the whispering. That's how he lures the children out of the house. So it makes you a little creeped out that way. I do think there is a perspective of a child throughout the book, and I think the author kind of struggled to write from that perspective because the child often sounded older than the child actually was. But beyond that, I think the story was pretty interesting, and it's definitely a creepy read. Then I read What Have We Done by Alex Finlay. 25 years ago, Jenna, Donnie, and Nico were best friends despite their living situation in a group home. Now they are being hunted down for something they did in their past. I gave this book 3 stars. I feel like it was just okay. I think the story was interesting in concept, but the execution wasn't there for me. The characters just didn't really make the mark for me. I wasn't really that invested in the story, other than trying to figure out what they did in their past, but beyond that, just an okay book. Then I read The One by John Mars. This is about a DNA service that promises to match you with your perfect partner. The discovery has its downsides, ending existing relationships, and the story follows 5 different people who have received their match, and they each have their own different secrets. I give this 3 stars. It's a very interesting concept. I've read other concepts like this about DNA matches. I just don't like the way it unfolded all the way, and it was not something I particularly liked. Some of the stories and characters were better than the other ones. I will say it's a pretty interesting concept. One of the people who their DNA match was a cop and they were a serial killer. So that was interesting to read, but overall it didn't hit the mark for me. Then I read Do I Know You by Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegmund Broca. Eliza and Graham are anticipating an uneventful anniversary trip, but a well-meaning guest mistakes them for strangers. They play into it and it helps deepen their relationship together. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this story. It's kind of rare that you get a romance book based on a couple that's already kind of together. And I think it would have been nice to kind of get more backstory into the couple, but otherwise I really enjoyed the story of them kind of acting like they were strangers and kind of getting to know each other, getting over their faults and flaws that they've been having in their relationship. Then I read Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. William Waters grew up in a house silenced by tragedy. His younger sister died, so his parents kind of can't stand to be around him. But when he gets to college, he meets Julia, his freshman year of college, and it feels like the world has lit up around him. They have a really strong connection, and when she introduces him to her family, he has a newcomer family. William experiences loving chaos, but a darkness from his past threatens Julia's planned future for their life, and it kind of shakes the sisters' devotion to each other. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the relationships between the sisters. It was very touching and impactful. It's a lot going into the story. There's a lot of characters. All the characters are really fleshed out, so I really appreciated that, and I really enjoyed this book. Then I read Summer Reading by Jen McKinley. When a woman who'd rather do anything than read meets a swoon-worthy bookworm, sparks fly, making for one hot summer fling. I gave this 3 stars. Kind of the premise behind the book is they're on this island for the summer, and the main character is like kind of like babysitting her brother, and then she helps the romantic hero try and find his dad. So it's just kind of like not the most interesting concept. I didn't really care for the book too much, but it was ultimately fine. Then I read 0 Days by Ruth Ware. This is her newest book. This is about Jack and her husband Gabe. They are the best in the business at testing security systems. So after a routine assignment, Jack discovers her husband is dead and the police suspect her. She's on the run. She doesn't know what to do next. I give this 3 stars. I think it was an interesting concept because I kind of forgot that their jobs were. So going into the book, they're in the assignment, so you think that they're breaking in, but no, they're just testing the security system. So I really liked that. But then once her husband died, which is like chapter 2, so it's not really a spoiler, and she's like on the run from the police. I'm like, why are you running from the police? Like, because there's not that much evidence against her. I don't think it was necessary for her to run from the police, but she was trying to like discover the killer on her own. I was just like, this is too much, but you know, I love a good thriller, so it was fun. And for my family's book club, my sister picked Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And I actually picked this up at Dollar Tree, and they had tons of different copies, so thank you, Dollar Tree. But this is about Ike and Buddy Lee. They're 2 ex-cons with little else in common other than the fact that their 2 sons were married. And their sons were murdered, so they kind of band together to enact revenge against whoever murdered them. So they have to kind of figure out who murdered them and then get their revenge. I gave this 3 stars. It was just an okay story for me. I didn't really care for the characters. I felt like they didn't really have that many redeeming qualities at the end of the day. I mean, I know that they were trying to get revenge, but it just didn't seem like they really changed all that much. But, you know, it was a interesting read. So those were all the books that I read in June. As always, leave me any recommendations. We didn't read too many books in June, only 8. It's been kind of busy, but yeah, leave me any recommendations.